all those that are here in person and all those that are Zooming with us. I knew when Reverend asked me to do the history this year, after I had done that presentation, I knew he was looking for stories. And I knew I didn't have them all. So I went to some of our seasoned saints to get some of their stories. And I went to some of our younger members who have been life members of Gaines Chapel and asked them to give me a story. So what I read to you is from those people that I went to. And let me just start. I do have copies for everyone. So when we're really back in the sanctuary and everybody's here, there'll be a copy for those of you who are home Zooming. Reflections. Then and now, Gaines Chapel AME Church, from the old building built in 1925 to the new building built in 1988 to Gaines Chapel in 2021. And this is from Alma Wharton. As I look back during that period of time that I served as a trustee, along with fellow trustees James S. Trice, A.C. Hinton, Protus Teague, and Dr. Thornton Martin, and the pastor, Reverend James R. Daniels, said that he wanted to build a new church building. Not all trustees were in agreement at first, but to quote Andrew White in his assessment of our founder, Richard Allen, we adopted a courageous and faith-filled attitude towards that which was needed. We agreed to start something new, a movement, if you want to call it that, to organize and build a new Gaines Chapel AME church building under the leadership of the late Reverend James R. Daniel, pastor, Reverend Cecil Fletcher, the associate pastor, and Reverend F. Nicholas Penny. And we moved on. There were meetings, and more meetings. Finally, the eyes had it. We're going to build a new church building. And we moved on. Frank Callahan was the corporation contractor. Groundbreaking services on Sunday, June 21st, 1987, with presiding elder Reverend Richard D. Smith in attendance. Ella Fitzgerald sang a song, Into Each Life Some Rain Must Fall. Well, some rain may have helped the night our old parsonage was destroyed by fire. Hindered by 13 degrees below zero, bitter temperatures, frozen fire hoses, the firefighters struggled to contain the fire to no avail. Next morning, the newspapers read, Fire Guts East Moline Annex. But to us, it was our old parsonage which held so many memories. But we moved on. On March 19th, 1988, newspaper headlines read, Wrecking Ball makes way for new church. A happy and a sad day. So many memories, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yes, ma'am.
And yes, we moved on. Church services held at the Florence Aldrich Center. The many, many fundraisers for well over a year. The Pew Rally, the yays, the nays, and the nays, and the yays. The beautiful stained glass windows saved and installed into the new building. The motorcade from Aldrich Center to our first worship service in our new building. So many that were there then are now gone on, but the memories, good, bad, or indifferent, still linger on. The paintings and drawings by my husband, Richard L. Wharton, including that of our founder, Richard Allen, that hangs in the foyer. It's been over a year now, and although we have not been able to have in-house services due to the pandemic and COVID-19, thanks to the parking lot and Zoom, God's word is still being brought forth by Pastor Cyrus Burns. I'm happy to say that in spite of our differences and running into obstacles and sometimes difficulties, The majority of the trustees worked very well together for the good of the church. And from my perspective, the entire Gaines family worked together to accomplish one goal, to build a new Gaines Chapel AME church building. And we moved in. And I'm just glad to have been a small part of this building picture. Alma Ward. Next up is Shelley Deering. And for those who don't remember Shelley, this is Jackie's daughter, Jackie Robinson's daughter. I have very fond memories of Gaines Chapel African Methodist Episcopal Church as a child growing up in that church from the age of 5. I'll never forget the mothers of the church, Mother Curry and Mother Williams, to name a couple who have gone on to glory, but were always there praying for me. Mother Curry's passing touched me in such a way that I wrote a poem just for her and went to the funeral home and read it to her. It was at that moment that I was able to find closure and deal with such a loss. I am thankful for Mother Cummings, who is still going strong. She too is a good and faithful servant of the Lord. I can never forget the likes of Mrs. Perkins, who was not a woman of many words, but when she spoke with her gentle voice, I attentively listened. Those were some of the best days of my life because I was involved in Sunday school, YPD, and the choir. YPD conventions were to die for, and I couldn't get enough of fellowshipping with other churches regularly on Sundays. If I started naming everyone that has touched me at this church, I would turn it into a sermon. Laugh out loud. I would like to thank God for my grandfather, the late presiding elder Richard D. Smith Sr., my grandmother, Sister Retha L. Smith, and my dear mother, Jackie L. Robinson, for instilling in me the importance of prayer, reading the Bible, being involved in church, and living for God. To this day, I am still very much involved in church, no matter what church I belong to. Gaines Chapel will forever be a staple in my heart and will always be home. And Shelley is involved in an AME church in Los Angeles, right? Okay, greetings, everyone. I counted it an honor and privilege to be able to share my perspective of how it is to be a pastor's wife. As many of you know, I am the wife of the late presiding elder Richard T. Smith Sr. When we came to Gaines Chapel, he was still a pastor. It isn't easy being a pastor, a wife of a pastor, or even a child of a pastor, given the nature of the AME church, where you're given a one-year assignment and you pray you don't get moved before your time is up. A funny story, when we came to Gaines Chapel, my husband and I went to the parsonage, and it was in very bad shape, which we sometimes don't want to admit. The floors were falling in, and you couldn't even walk on them. So using our better judgment, we made the easy decision to live in a hotel until we could find acceptable housing. Although we were in a hotel for a while, that did not stop us. My husband won the hearts of many of the elderly members. The late Mrs. Annie Mae Strickland was very vocal in letting everyone know that Reverend Smith was her pastor. He only had the assignment for 1 year before he was appointed presiding elder. In that short period of time at Gaines Chapel AME, we developed friendships and felt welcome and decided we would stay in East Moline. Almost 50 years later, I can still call Gaines Chapel my church. There have been a lot of changes over the years. Pastors and first ladies have come and gone. Many of the church members are no longer with us. However, I count it a blessing at 96 years of age to still be a member of this wonderful church. I look forward to the younger generation carrying on the legacy of those that have come before them. Sincerely, Mrs. Retha L. Smith, former First Lady. So you younger folks have something to live up to. Okay. The next one comes from our first and only female pastor. I served Gaines Chapel from 2011 to 2016. It was my first appointment as a pastor. What struck me when I first walked in was just how beautiful the church was. It was so bright, and the sanctuary was beautiful. The congregation was warm, friendly, and very welcoming to me and my family. Gaines had a strong membership, and it seemed like every member was part of an auxiliary, and some were part of multiple auxiliaries. This was shown in the strength of the choir, the stewardess board, WMS, usher board, health commission, and more. The members, although small in number, came together to achieve their goals. With the assistance and dedication of each member, we were able to retire the debt that was previously incurred. All salaries were brought to current status, and all delinquent bills were paid in full. The membership worked diligently to maintain their paid in full status and were consistent in their tithes and offerings, which resulted in a healthy savings balance. Gaines Chapel had an active and robust Sunday school and YPD department. Again, because of the faithfulness of the membership, the children were able to attend Sunday school conventions and Christian education conventions at no cost to the parents. My family and I will be forever grateful for our time spent at Gaines Chapel. The memories, lessons, and connections made are ones that we will cherish in the years to come. Reverend Adrian L. Johnson. From Mrs. Pittman, who is another seasoned saint, my husband Lou and I came to the area in 1960. What I remember most about our ministers are the ones that came with families around the age of my own. My husband was very involved in the business portion of the church, but I was more committed to the social aspects of the wives and children of the ministers. Reverend John Henning from 1969 to 72 and his wife Almeda came with twin daughters who were close to the same age as my daughter. They also they were also bid whist players, which was our game. So we socialized a lot. There was also a group of us ladies that would go to the University of Iowa for different cultural events and social opportunities. Reverend James Wade, 1974 to 1977, and his wife Shirley had two boys. He had such big ideas. I remember one Christmas he took over decorating the church and put evergreen boughs and branches in every window and on every pew. Just everywhere you turned was evergreen. I never knew exactly how much he spent on the decorating, but it was a lot. He also took an interest in the teens and developed programs for them. Reverend E. Franklin Wilson, 84 to 85, and his wife Claire came with three kids who, by that time, were younger than my own, so I didn't know them well. She is now a minister for the AME church, and her youngest daughter returned to Gaines Chapel and sang with the choir while working in the area. Reverend James Daniel, 1985 to 1990, and his wife Mary also came with the family. Their daughter Rosie was a very gifted musician and extensively contributed to our music program for the adult and youth choirs. Reverend Daniel spearheaded the building of our current church building. Reverend Charles Jackson, 1990 to 93, and his wife Melinda also had teenage sons when they came, so they also emphasized youth programs. Mrs. Jackson worked with Augustana College to arrange for students to attend church service. Gaines became a stop for students in religious study classes to experience church services outside of their own culture. Many students from the Chicago area attended service, and several joined the choir. One art student painted a picture of the interior of Gaines on a Sunday morning service as her senior class project and gifted it to the church. It still hung in the church prior to the pandemic. We were blessed to have such a gifted and committed group of ministers to guide us through an ever-changing amount of growth for the church. Loretta Pittman. Deaconess our most seasoned saint, I think. I hope I hope Miss Cummings won't take offense to that. But our most seasoned saint, Deaconess Juanita Cummings, vividly remembers Reverend J. L. Poole, 51 to 57. Not only is he the pastor who purchased our beautiful stained glass windows and three-part murals depicting the three major highlights of Jesus' life, but he also married me and my husband, Joe. That action solidified some 70 years of service to Gaines Chapel. In those years, Deaconess Cummings has served 17 different pastors in any number of positions, from secretary of the finance committee to president of the Linda Hand Club, the Missionary Society, member of the 50th Anniversary Committee, member of the Junior Stewardess Board, and many other auxiliaries and offices. Her husband, Joe Cummings, and family friend and fellow stewardess, Clarice Williams, worked extremely hard with different fundraisers to assist in paying off the mortgage of the new church. Mother Cummings found her avocation on the stewardess board where she still serves. She was named the deaconess in 2017. And then only a young person can tie this all together. I went to Felicia Hill, who is now the stewardess pro tem, which means she's the pastor stewardess or steward. I'm sorry, steward. And this is what Felicia had to say. I've been going to Gaines Chapel all of my life. As a kid, I remember Reverend Dr. Wade. I would look forward to church. The YPD was very active then, probably due to all the kids at the church at that time. We went to the YMCA regularly, had heaven and hell parties on Halloween. I really wondered what that was. All the other kids were very nice to me, especially Marilyn Chandler's daughters. They always had a smile for me. I really involved myself more in church during Reverend Daniel's pastorate. I joined the choir under his daughter Rosie, and it was a beautiful praise time on Thursday evenings. Reverend Daniels made Anthony Cook and me junior stewards, and she said Anthony is doing well. I did ask when I read this. And we had to attend meetings. I did learn more about being an AME. I got baptized by Reverend Daniels as a teenager. In my 20s, Reverend Jackson was here. Reverend Jackson and Mrs. Jackson were very involved with YPD also. Mrs. Jackson was the YPD director, and even though I was a young adult, she kept me busy with YPD, and I loved it. The youth would gather on Friday nights and learn about YPD and pray and laugh, and Mrs. Jackson always fed us. I recall Reverend Nettles making Anthony Cook and myself stewards, and also putting us on the Finance Commission. I've been a steward almost ever since. Pastor Bradford always called me young blood, and it made me laugh because I wasn't young by that time. He was supportive of our ideas. Pastor Moore was very supportive of his church. I recall he gave 100% in all that he did for Gaines. Pastor Johnson was my first female pastor, with an exclamation point. And when I talked to her about this, I said, yeah, she was everybody else's first too. But she said, I thought so, but I didn't really want to say that. but she was. She was a great support and teacher. She was the only pastor to erase Gaines Chapel debt, old and new. It was refreshing to see positive figures on finances, which we had not seen for years. I enjoy being a steward pro tem for Reverend Cyrus Burns. Pastor Burns is involved in making the East Moline community a better place, and he lives in Iowa. I appreciate his passion to make this world a better place. He keeps it real and is a positive person. He encourages Gaines to be out and do our best. And those are just some of the reflections I was able to gather for today. I do want to encourage everyone, sometime when you're sitting around and looking for something to do, write down your memories of being involved with Gaines Chapel, because it's important that we have those stories and that we can gather them in one place so that as people follow us, you know, what do we want the people who are involved in Gaines Chapel in the next 50 years to know about us? And what did we do during the pandemic to help the church survive? And anybody who has played with genealogy and trying to find your roots, those types of stories are what helps and what makes it. And if they're documented somewhere, uh, it just helps those coming up trying to find out. So I encourage everybody to do that. If I didn't ask you specifically this time, if Pastor Burns gives me the charge again, I will be coming to you. So just keep it in mind and work on it. That's good.
Thank you so much, Sister Claranne and Sister